All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the long wait. We can go ahead and get started with more One Piece related reflections. Let me just set some things off to the side so that way I can see chat while we're going through the chapters, and then we can talk as we go. All right, we're ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, well, actually, you know what? It's probably best if you all can see my face. Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here. Welcome to my One Piece Reflections, where, for those who don't know, at the end of every month, we go through all the chapters that we get of One Piece and then talk about the story as a whole, thing we may have discovered throughout these chapters, and where we think the story is going to go from here on. So, this has been the longest period of time, almost a year. March, April, May, June, just a couple months shy of a full year since the last time we got a month that had 4 chapters in it. Now, the most we've seen is 3 pretty recently, and maybe even 2 depending on the breaks that Oda takes. But this has been the first time since June of last year in 2024 where we had 4 chapters within a singular month. So the chapters we're going to be going through is chapter 11, 41, 42, 43, and 44. And that's all the ones that we got for this month. Now, starting in April, we're getting another chapter because even after all the chapters we got in March, we are still not going on break. So let's go ahead and get started because a lot of things were revealed in these chapters, including some interesting character developments and one big development for the chronology of the story, like the timeline of the entirety of One Piece, that just made me go like, wait, what? I thought time only went as I thought only history went as far back as this. There's so many things that happened in the last recent chapter that just made me think, wow, okay, so now I am very curious about the earlier times in the world of One Piece. Because, let me say this and we'll get started with the chapters. The world of One Piece as we know it. Yo, Crystal X! Looking forward to seeing it? Awesome. Just so you know, if this is your first time here, I don't show any images of what I'm reading, especially during reflections, because I don't want to suffer any copyright issues. I've dealt with that before, and I'd rather not. This is just me talking about all the chapters that we got. I'll run through them, we'll talk about each one, and then once we're done, we'll talk about each chapter as the month as a whole, and where the world of One Piece may be going in the direction that it's going in. So I just thought I'd let you know, just in case. I just wanted to double check with you to make sure you were cool. But one thing about One Piece is that the world of One Piece as we know it, we have known it to be basically just this giant, pretty much oceanic planet, and apparently it's called the Blue Planet. The world, because it was from a recent SBS where we got the name of the world of One Piece. It is literally called Blue Planet. It's not Earth. It's not Terran or any other name. Oda has officially named it Blue Planet. So in the entirety of One Piece, as far as we've known it, it has always been this oceanic planet planet that has, islands peppered throughout to it. And for as long as we can remember, that is how it's always been. Until we got to the Egghead arc, where Vegapunk basically revealed that the world as we know it for One Piece didn't always look this way. At least 100 years ago, there was a lot more land, there was a lot less water, and there were entire structures and kingdoms that lay submerged under the water right now. But we learned that there are actually places that is older than even as far back as the farthest time we've gone. The farthest time we've gone is 800 years. That's as far as history as we've been delving into. That's as far as we've gone. But the last chapter of One Piece tells us that we've gone there are places that have existed way longer than things of the Void Century and the advanced civilization whose name has yet to be revealed. There exist structures that have been here millennia, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So, starting off with the first chapter that we got in this month, chapter 1141, titled An Older Woman, We have Nami lamenting to Road that there was no treasure in the actual treasure room itself because they're actually transporting the giants that were basically manhandled and defeated. Well, woman-handled by Gunko and injured by Gunko. They're transporting them. And while they're in, Nami's upset that there's no treasure. They're going. Then we cut to Frankie, who is on this tour with Ripley, and she's explaining that as you can tell, we live in the branches of this enormous tree, each of which has its own long history. And we see that one branch has been cut off because it was a village called Haugen that was on that bridge. Hold on, give me a sec. Someone left the man cave door open. All right, sorry about that. So, we find out there's a village called Haugen that was on a branch, but because of fire, one day lightning struck the village and started a fire, but when a branch gets old, the fire just never goes out. So, the kingdom of Elbaf is very old, but since it's so old, it is incredibly susceptible to lightning and fire. In order to ensure that it didn't spread to other branches, they had to cut it off, village included. And that's when Ripley explains that you might say that the vulnerabilities of Elbaf, are you live anywhere else? As in like right now, or do you mean do I do anything live on any other platforms? I have a Twitch, but I haven't exactly been on it for a while. It's actually been, I want to say, over a year since I was on Twitch, but I'm mostly here on YouTube because this is where the vast majority of my audience is. And I'm not on any other platforms. I'm not on Kick and any other streaming platforms either. I'm just mainly here because this is where everybody, where my, all my subscribers are. So I just mainly stream from here. I may get on Twitch and this is the second time someone's asked me about this. I may get on Twitch and play just some random games while main series will probably be here on the channel and the occasional chill stream as well. Gonna be playing the first Berserker Kazan tomorrow. So that'll be something that I'll be doing tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we got the Nintendo Direct with the Switch. But yeah, I'll talk more about that once I make a whole separate update video for April, because April starts tomorrow. But Ripley explains that the vulnerabilities of Elbaf as a whole are lightning and fire. Then we cut to the village where everyone is just drinking. Everyone's just drinking. Usopp's drinking. Dory and Bragi are chastising Usopp because Usopp slaps the sword that's in Jarl's head. And, I mean, if anyone's ever had, like, a wound or had something sticking in them and someone flicks it, it does hurt because you're jiggling this foreign object with inside your skin that your skin doesn't have, inside of your body, that your body really doesn't have, like, a natural defense for. So, they chastise him, and Usopp is too drunk to actually see reason, so he's just making fun. And Brook is playing music, while Nami is just watching on, and Jinbei's watching on, enjoying himself, and Sanji's looking around, wondering where Gerd went. And we get to Gerd, who is taking care of the two giants that were bodied by Gunko, and Road is trying to fabricate this story of like, nothing bad happened, because we all know what happened, and they know something major happened, but he's trying to make it seem like nothing happened at all. And while he's trying to explain this, and trying to hope that she believes it, she gives the appearance like, oh, I believe you, and he turns and he's thinking to himself, saying like, we must wait until the ultra rare Straw Hats return. If they find out about this business with Loki, I'll be treated like an accomplice, and I've always wished we could free Loki and have him leave this island forever. Let him rampage elsewhere for all I care. So Road doesn't care what happens to the world if Loki gets out, just as long as he gets out of Elbaf. And then Gerd, not being fooled by him trying to avoid the question of wondering what truly happened at Alris Castle, she clobbers him over the head with her battle axe. And then demands that he tells her everything. Then we cut back to the underworld, where Luffy and Zoro, with the key that Gabin let them have, they see Loki after he was impaled by Shamrock Cerberus Devil Fruit. Devil Fruit sword. Let me be specific here. He doesn't have the Devil Fruit. His sword has it. And Loki is laying here, and Luffy's trying to find out what happened. And even Zoro says this giant is huge. And Luffy's trying to get him to answer, and he's not saying anything. But Loki is breathing, albeit has a shortness of breath. It's very short breaths. It's not heavy. He's severely damaged. And Luffy tries to open the key to his cuffs, but falls off because the cuffs are Sea Prism Stone, and since Luffy is also a Devil Fruit user, he is susceptible to the effects of it, and he falls off. And Zoro's looking around, and he's going, what's with the huge animals? And he's telling Luffy to chill out for a moment. And Luffy, see, the thing about Luffy is, even if someone is threatening his life, he's still willing to save him, because he's not the type of pirate to let people die. Contrary to a lot of other pirates who have no problem cutting down tons and tons of people, Luffy is not the type of person that would just watch a person die and he had absolutely nothing to do with it. But Zoro has to be that first mate to tell him, I've never talked to this guy and I only heard bad things about him. All I know is that if an ore-sized supergiant starts raising trouble, it's going to be a major problem even for Elbaf. And Luffy's all like, a giant is dying, man. We have to save him. And Zoro says, like, that's not my problem, though. Then all of a sudden, Zoro walks over, and then he proceeds to kick Loki in the chest, causing Loki to, I guess, wake up out of unconsciousness and scream out in pain. And Zoro also gets a little blood on his hands as well, because Loki coughs up a little blood. And when Loki tries to speak to him, he slumps back into unconsciousness again. And then Zoro says, here, we'll unlock the cuffs. I'm just skimming through this chapter. I'm not going to read every single thing. Gonna go for a bit. Hope you have a great stream. Thank you, Crystal X. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day as well. And if I see you again, then I'll be happy to welcome you back. But Zoro says, here, we'll unlock the cuffs, but keep one of his legs still locked up with Sea Prism Stone. If he wakes up again, we can talk to him. See, this is the type of person that Luffy needs at his right hand. This is his necessary right hand. It's not Nami, it's Zoro, because he's the only one serious enough in the entire group of the Straw Hats that sees this may be a bad idea, so let's take precautions. Luffy would just toss caution to the wind without a moment's notice and just be all like, if he acts up, I'll just beat him up. But I'm like, you could make your situation so much more advantageous for yourself if you took precautions. But since Oda doesn't write Luffy to be a cautionary person, he is a person that just acts on impulse. And I keep bringing this up. This is the reason why Oda has never given us a thought bubble of Luffy, because Luffy doesn't have inner monologues. He just does things. He just goes off on his own instincts immediately. Everyone else has inner monologues and inner thoughts. We've seen it from Zoro, Nami, Sanji, Usopp, Chopper, Frankie, Brook, Jinbei, Robin. We've seen it from everyone except Luffy, because he's not the type of character to think things through. So thankfully, we have someone like Zoro that can ground him a little bit, saying, hey, we'll unlock all these cuffs except for one just in case, because we don't even know what type of devil fruit power he even has. So might as well keep it on as a precaution. And then Luffy says, all right, maybe I'll go call for Chopper in order for Chopper to try and heal Loki. But then he says, nah, it'll take too long. If that's how they find out we freed Loki, though, we're gonna get kicked out of the country, because trying to get, let me see, pretty sure there was a doctor at the feast in the village. Yeah, referring to Gerd, he knows that Gerd is a doctor as well. If that's how they find out we freed Loki, though, we're gonna get kicked out of the country. If it happens, it happens. I'll go find the doctor. We'll need meat, too. Can't get better without food. And Zoro suggests eating the animals and cooking them up, but Luffy says, "No, don't ever say that again. They're my friends. I'll hunt some different ones in the mountains. Meat is meat. No, those are friends, and you don't eat friends." And this is Luffy. This is Luffy's mentality. He made the moment he made friends with those animals, they stopped becoming potential food. But the doctor comes first. You wait here. And while Luffy's preparing to go, we get Harudin and his crew coming flying in with Stanzin, Goldberg, Gerd, Road. Everyone is coming sailing in, and Sanji is there as well, saying like the island clouds will disappear down in the underworld. All we need is a little bit of buoyancy before they vanish. Don't worry, Gerd, I'll save you. This is Sanji to Gerd. We don't have time to use the lift. It's an emergency. If Loki gets free, it'll be hell unleashed. Now, mind you, like he said, since they're in the underworld, they have absolutely no way to stop themselves because clouds don't go down that far towards the ground. But they're about to make a crash landing before Luffy expands his body and uses Gun Gun Balloon to basically save them all. And, well, they all go flying back into the air, except for Gerd, who falls out of the ship and lands safely, while Harudin and everyone else just goes flying into the air, and they come back down with a hard landing. Harudin's missing some teeth. He's got a knot sticking straight through the helmet, his own helmet as well. But they all come in, and Harudin immediately speaks up because he knows what they're about to do, and he didn't waste any time getting to the underworld in order to stop them. "We're in such a panic. I'm glad we made it in time. Whatever you do, Straw Hat, don't free Loki. We made Roto spill the beans." And, Rode's apologizing. "You can't trust Loki. He's a cunning, cruel, vicious, backstabbing, and conniving villain. We've known Loki since we were children. If he told you anything that made him sound sympathetic, then he's lying. He's the kind of beast who will kill a so-called friend at a moment's notice." Now, we see here that Luffy buttons his lip the same way Kid Luffy would do when he was trying to hide something from someone, but Luffy is terrible at keeping secret, is terrible at keeping a straight face when he knows something he shouldn't, or he knows something that he shouldn't be telling someone else. So he puckers in his lips and is looking away, and Harudin screams, "He's an enemy of the world!" And Zoro says it's too late as the chains start rattling, and we see Loki finally stand up, and, well, he is an incredibly large individual. So big that I wouldn't be surprised if he was around the same height as Oars, or at least halfway. I want to say he's about halfway. Because we looked it up. We actually did look up to see if Loki was the same height. If Loki was indeed the same height as Oars. And it doesn't say. But believed to be the size of Oars. Yeah, believed to be the size of Oars. So he's already massive. Like, you know how you get the curve of a boot? You get the curve of a boot, like at the front, like the toe of a shoe. It's at the curve. It's curved at the front. That is where Luffy gets to in terms of just how big Loki is compared to them. And all the other new giant pirates are screaming, "Loki! What? I thought he was passed out." "Don't do it," as Loki grabs the weapon that was behind him. "Loki, take your hand off Ragnir!" And this is the chapter where Loki managed to stand up after being chained up to Elbaf for 6 years. This is actually his first time standing up. And I don't know about you, but when you are sitting in a place for a long time, let's say, for instance, you're sitting in a movie theater and you're watching a movie that's maybe, let's say 2 hours long. That's when you get like the smallest amount of muscle atrophy, where if you get up, you don't have that same fluidity of moving your muscles as you would before you sat down. It is just the lightest amount. And then you have people who are in comas for, like, let's say months at a time. And when they get up, they got to get reused to actually moving again because their muscles haven't been used in so long. But Loki has been essentially chained up for 6 years. Has no problem standing up before Luffy. And while he's standing here in front of Luffy, he's smiling while he's holding his weapon Ragnir. And that is the end of chapter 1141. So, let me talk about 1141 for a minute. In this chapter, the biggest takeaway from this chapter for me was... I want to say the biggest takeaway from this chapter with me was Loki actually standing up. I'm not sleepy, by the way. Loki actually standing up was like the biggest takeaway for the chapter for me. Because, I mean, we heard so many stories about Loki, and seeing him just basically towering over Luffy, it's a sight. It's a sight. And he's smiling as he's holding his giant sledgehammer. It's basically a giant block, a giant metal block on a stick. And he's just smiling. Everything else about this chapter, I feel like that was probably the biggest moment for me, was when Loki actually stood up. But everything else going on in the chapter, such as Zoro trying to reprimand Luffy, and I want to say the Giants partying, and then Roto getting beaten up by Gerd. I want to say that those were pretty casual moments that were happening, but Loki actually getting up was the biggest thing for me. Onwards to chapter 1142, What I'm Afraid Of. So, when we start this, we cut back to the Walrus School, where all the children are screaming that there's a snake in the front yard, and it's just basically a giant snake. It is a giant snake that's terrorizing all of the children, and they're trying to run away. And then we get introduced to more members of the faculty of the Walrus School. We get introduced to Mr. Blade, who's a math teacher. We get reintroduced to Miss Anjay, who's also the language teacher and a librarian. And then we also get introduced to the Walrus School principal, Principal Tusk, who has this facial structure akin to that of an actual walrus, so it kind of fits that the Walrus School is headed by a walrus man, even though, let me just clarify, he doesn't have a walrus devil fruit, he just looks like a walrus. But the kids are screaming out, and when one of the teachers goes and hits the snake in the face, he takes, well, actually, no, it's actually, Principal, I'm doing a lot of uhs right now, my apologies. It's actually Principal Walrus who runs up, smacks it in the face, and Saul comes up and uses midterm X-Slam, like midterm exam, because it shows Saul actually using hockey, which is not a surprise considering that he used to be a vice admiral? I want to say he used to be a vice admiral. Hold on, let me look this up again. Jaguar D. Saul. Yeah, he was a former vice admiral. I had a feeling I was right. He's a former vice admiral. So him using hockey is not a surprise, though this is the first time we actually see him using hockey or even fighting into a greater degree. And he uses midturn X-Slam and slams the snake's head into the ground with enough force to actually break the ground apart. And while the kids are looking at it, you get the kids cheering on Mr. Principal and Mr. Saul, and it shows that Saul and Principal Tusk were former members of the Giant Pirates. Oh, actually, no. Nope, sorry, I lumped in Saul with that. It's actually Tusk, who was a former member of the Giant Pirates. So he's a person that used to sail with Dory and Brocky. So the kids are asking, you used to be a warrior too, Mr. Principal? The rumors were true. Mr. Saul is super duper strong. He was in the Navy, right? That was really cool. And it shows Robin and Chopper are stowing away in Saul's beard. That must be pretty comfortable for Robin to be in there. Chopper, I don't think he'd be too bothered since his whole body is already covered in fur. But for Robin to be in there chilling, I'm pretty sure she doesn't mind. Even more so considering that it's Saul. So Saul goes, sorry about the scare, children. And then they're screaming out more, but then they talk about Mr. Wolf, who was the gym teacher, and Mr. Wolf is just covered in blood everywhere for some reason. And that's when we find out that something has happened to the other children. Ylva and the others wandered off. Ylva and the others have wandered off, But he also warns you mustn't touch the children. We find out why in the next chapter. So when they run off, we see that the children are all sleepwalking, and we notice a familiar arrow next to these children, which is the result of Gunko, which means that the Holy Knights are involved with these children being walked away in this direction. Possibly they're the reasons why they're asleep. They're the reasons why Mr. Wolf got injured the way he was, and Gunko is clearly the reason why the children are walking in one singular direction. And while Saul is thinking like, blow the horn, warn the whole country. Not the whole country, Tusk. Oh, no, this is Tusk going. Blow the horn, warn the whole country. Saul goes, not the whole country, Tusk, that's going overboard. This is an abnormal state of affairs, Saul. Look at the forest. And when we look at the forest, after Mr. Blade blows the horn, we see that even more creatures have crept up through the forest, and they're so large, they're eclipsing the very trees themselves. And then we start seeing more and more children passing out unexpectedly. And Chopper says, let me get down there, Saul. I'll take a look at them. And then we cut back to the first thing we should do is stop the children and get them to safety. Things get worse from there as we go into the last final 2 chapters of the entire month. So we get back to the underworld. Loki is standing up saying, you thought that leaving one leg trapped in Sea Prism Stone would contain the true extent of my power? That was foolish of you. If you want to save Elbaf, undo the final cuff now. You'll soon see if I'm really helpless or not in this condition. And Harudin, and the thing is, we see Loki's size in comparison to Harudin. Harudin is already a far distance from Loki. Mind you, in the last chapter, Luffy came up to like the front curve of Loki's boot. That's how small Luffy is. So now everyone's standing a farther distance away, and we can see that Loki easily eclipses Harudin. Why am I yawning so much? I'm not sleepy. We see that Harudin is easily eclipsed by Loki's size. I dare say that Harudin himself barely comes up to, he doesn't even come up to Loki's knee. So now we get Luffy and Sanji going, hey, what's his deal? Better hurry up. If I keep landing blasts, eventually they'll hit something, and the fires will spread. You know what Elbaf is susceptible to, don't you? I can bring you all to ruin! And Harudin screams, stop it, Loki, as Loki takes Ragnir and slams it into Elbaf itself. And when from this hit is a big old flash of light. And from that flash of light, suddenly storm clouds form over the nation. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a lightning bolt comes down and hits directly where Ragnir struck. And in doing so, since the lightning streak went through the trees and hit down into the underworld, it has also started to set fire to the branches up above it. So we don't know the fullest capabilities of Loki's weapon Ragnir, but we do know that it can be used to apparently induce thunder clouds in an immediate area. And then when Ragnir is struck to a spot, lightning from that same thundercloud will come down and hit exactly where Loki actually wanted to hit. So here's the thing. This could be another type of weapon that is unique in that it has unordinary properties. Not saying it's one of the 12 great swords of the world or 12 great weapons of the world. But it is an incredibly powerful weapon wielded. And the thing is, this is a weapon that is only for Loki. This weapon is so big that pretty much only Loki can actively use it. So this weapon's power is already increased 100-fold simply because it's Loki who's using it. But we don't know the fullest extent of this hammer. Whether it's the result of a devil fruit infusion, or maybe it's something else entirely. I can't say that it's devil fruit infused because we can't say that it's a lightning infused hammer if the Goro Goro no Mi already belongs to Eneru and he is up in space. So it's definitely not a devil fruit infused weapon. It's not a devil fruit infused weapon, and it's already started to set fire to the trees near the village of, mind you, it's on the, let's see, fire on the south side of the island. On the south side of the island, most of them are in the north side. On the south side of the island is when the fires from that lightning bolt have already started to spread. So all the villagers have taken notice. The partying's over, everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, and we get back to the school, and that's when Anji explains where those monsters come from, because she says that it was earlier today when the children were explaining what they were afraid of. Loki has a huge hammer and he destroys the world. No, he doesn't. Why am I yawning? Loki has a huge hammer and he destroys the world. No, he doesn't. The one who destroys the world is Nika. So all these children are putting up things that they're afraid of. One kid says it's ghosts. Another says it's undead Draugr. Another says it's just storms. Another says Nidhogger the lightning dragon. Another says Jormungandr. Another says my mom. And everyone is just putting forth ideas of what they are afraid of. So when she explains it, all of those things are what the children drew based on the prompt of what they were afraid of. And Walrus says, that's ridiculous. These things are a vision of the world that terrifies the children the most. And here we have all of these creatures, all of these monsters that these children are afraid of that have suddenly come to life somehow and are just traipsing across the trees of Elbaf. And mind you, these monsters are gigantic in size, even possibly dwarfing the size of Loki because they're just that large of a creature. So, while we are focused on the giants here, in these last couple of panels for 1142, we get Killingham, who's fast asleep. As he says, okay, we're ready to go, and he sleeps, and then Junko says, hey, good job there, Killingham. Oh, wait, it's Solmers who says, hey, good job there, Killingham. The time limit is until the kids reach the ship. Do you think we can get them back? And Solmers laughs and says, ha, to know love is to wound another. Say, Gunko, are you afraid of anything? And then Gunko simply says, Nika. So this confirms that what's happening here right now is the result of Killingham and his devil fruit power, which we find out in the next chapter. Now, before I move on to 1143, Kenzo has to go outside. If anyone else comes by, let them know that I stepped away to take care of the boys, and then I'll be right back. Hold tight, everybody. I'll edit that part out. So, when we move on from chapter 1142 and we get to 1143, titled Holy Knights. This is actually a very important chapter. I enjoyed this one because we found out the powers of Killingham and St. Somers. So, when we get back here, we have Saul at the Walrus School checking over the children. Sorry, dealing with dogs. But he's talking to Ylva, Mag, Ronja, trying to figure out what's going on. So, while he's trying to get close and he's wondering what this cloth is leading them to, which is the arrow of Gunco, Robin says, "Be careful, Saul. Remember the other teacher said not to touch the children." And Saul is going like, "I know he did, but I don't see nothing wrong with them. And it's dangerous for them to keep walking like this." And despite the warning coming from someone who was heavily injured and covered in blood, Saul still decides, let me try and move the children. Let me try and grab them, even though I've just been told, don't touch the children. By an adult, mind you, to another adult. See, I'd understand if it was a child, an adult telling a child, and the child finds out the hard way. Child didn't listen, was hard-headed. This is an adult who just talked to another adult that was covered in blood to not touch the children, tries to touch the children, and his hand immediately gets punctured by thorns. And Saul falls over as he starts bleeding profusely. And then Anji chimes in over the intercom going, "This is the Walrus School. All of the children have suddenly fallen asleep. And out of those, 9 of them have started walking. We don't know where they're going." And then this is the Giants listening on and everything. The partying's over. The children are at stake here. So now all the Giants have, for all intents and purposes, they've kind of sobered up in order for them to, like process everything that's going on. And then everyone's going like, "The kids at the school? My son's there too. Monsters, are the children safe?" And then we have our first look at the transponder pillbug, which is a massive transponder snail that is so big that it's even bigger than Brooke. The children are traveling down branch Route 8 at the moment. And that's when the Straw Hats are starting to hear everything that's going on. So while that's happening, the Giants also see the fire that's going on. Then, while everyone's wondering what's going on, while that's going on and everyone's still kind of drunk a little bit because of what's going on, the firefighters come in order to try and put out the fire. But when they do, something comes out of the trees, and it's actually the undead Draugr that we saw earlier that proceeds to swat the firefighters straight out of the air, much to everyone's shock because they didn't expect to see that. Then we get to see more of St. Somers, who's just laughing at what his power is doing to everyone. You see how shocked those Giants were when they got stabbed by the thorns? It's just like the famous saying, every love has its thorns, but it's really every rose has its thorns. But Somers is just kind of twisting the words around to fit his own benefit. "Sorry, I need this water. My throat's dry. Give me a sec. Again." Once again, I'll cut this part out. I have water. No more coughing. But Salmers is just laughing about his own power and the effects it's having on the giants as he goes, "It's just like the famous saying, every love has its thorns." And Gunko says, "Never heard of it." And Salmers goes, "You're so apathetic, Gunko, you know that? Love is the passion to reach out and squeeze someone tight, even as you see the thorns up close. The best part of this game is when it's parents and children. Parents hug their kids tight, thorns and all, and then the kids scream and wail when they see their worst nightmare, mommy and daddy dying in agony." So, this was another moment that made me hate the Celestial Dragons and anyone affiliated with them even more. We know the Celestial Dragons to be incredibly depraved individuals. Them to be incredibly depraved individuals with no sympathy for anyone that isn't a Celestial Dragon. In fact, they view people as insects for the most part. But Saint Salmers takes it to another degree where he says that my power makes it so that I can watch moms, mothers, and fathers die while their children's watch because the mothers and fathers can't save their own children. It's funny. It's funny to me. He finds joy in watching children watch their own parents suffer. See, this is the reason why all the Celestial Dragons have to go. There's real emotion in killing. Saint Salmers, Thorn Fruit, Thorn Man. Death by love, isn't that just so exciting? And Gunko doesn't say anything because she's indifferent to it. Yo, Cedes, it's good to see you. I hope your day has been going well, my friend. I hope your day has been going well. No interest, the woman who never knew love. Which route did you choose, Gunko? There was a thick branch that ran down the middle, showing that the Walrus School is connected to the Western Village by just one big massive branch. And it's also where the port is. So they're just on a fast track. What happened? How you doing? I'm doing good. We are currently doing the One Piece Reflections, where I read through all the chapters. We're halfway through. We're actually almost done because we have chapters 1143 right now, and we got 1144 afterwards. We're just talking about everything that happened in the chapter we got last week. So Gunko is directing the children from the Walrus School to the port, and mind you, she's eating food with Killingham and Saltmers and everybody else. If they walk straight that way, they'll reach the village's sea clouds. The middle one's good, stands out better, makes their utter futility all the more apparent. Salmers, and then Killingham says, Salmers, I need a bit more salt. Salt? And then all of a sudden, Salmers is sent to sleep by St. Killingham, who in this chapter was revealed to actually be a mythical type dragon called a Qilin. Dragon fruit, mythical type modeled Qilin, dream manifesting man. And what we learn from this particular devil fruit of Killingham's is that since he can turn into a Qilin, and he has the power to manipulate dreams and even create objects out of people's dreams once he sent them to sleep. So in this instance, when Killingham wanted some salt, he made Salmers think about salt before immediately sending him to sleep and then reaching into his dream bubble, like we've seen it in cartoons all the time. But just literally reaching into his dream thought bubble and then taking out the salt that way. And then Salmers immediately wakes up. What about the sleeptids you pulled out of those brats' dreams? And the sleeptids is essentially the term used by the creatures that were created from the children's dreams since the last chapter. The Draugr, the storms, everything. All that they're referred to as sleeptids now. I can keep them going at the same time, of course. This salt goes perfectly with the meal. And then Gunko tries some, and she apparently really enjoys it. She finds it delicious. A real unique culture they've got. So all we have to do is take one of those to return to the Holy Land. We've basically won already. It's too easy. This is a baby game for babies. And then Gunko says, I'm very full now, all this in 0 calories. And one thing about Killingham is that he can create food from people's dreams, but since it's essentially food created from dreams and not actual food, it only has the properties of dream food. It's dream food, so 0 energy too. So it's food and objects with no real substance to it. So a big giant double-decker cheeseburger, while it may make you full, you won't get any sustenance or gain any energy from it. So you can eat a ton of this food, but you will not get fat from it. But you won't gain anything from it either. Don't worry, Somers. There will be trouble. I saw a pirate ship moored on the sea clouds of the village. The Emperor of the Sea Straw Hat Luffy is here. Wait, the kids are walking right towards a fire. See, you didn't expect this. Not to worry, if they die, we can send more. Once again, refueling my desire to see the demise of every single celestial dragon. Now, had Mjosgard stayed alive, I would have liked for him to live. But since they had Mjosgard killed because he chose to be sympathetic, because he chose to actually behave like a human being, they killed him. So I don't care if anything bad happens to any of the celestial dragons that live up on Marijois. So, and this just reinforces that. If the children walk straight into the fire, if they die, we can always get more. So now we cut back to Loki. Who's crackling with, his hammer is just crackling with lightning right now, while the new giant pirates are kind of like encircled around him. But no, go on, Hadodin, try and stop me. But no, you can't possibly stop me. You can't even lift Ragnir. And then Gerd is going, I just hope no one gets hurt in the Sun World. They will. The flames will only spread further. So make your choice. Will you undo the last cuff and free me? And Sanji's wondering, what's going on? Who's this ginormous giant, anyway? He was really badly injured, so I wanted to help him. Or will you all choose death? I'll only keep taking the lives of those weaklings in the Sun World, if you don't answer me. And then Hadodin walks up and goes, Wait, all right. And Loki starts grinning. And that's when Zoro walks up and goes, Don't get suckered in, Hadodin. Roronoa Zoro! I guess I gotta do it. If he can move, I'll stop him. That was the deal. Wait, Straw Hat! He'll electrocute you if you get too close. But my thing is, Hadodin doesn't realize that. Does he not realize the properties of rubber? Rubber acts as an insulator, so electricity powers don't work on Luffy whatsoever. You literally had a man who had a lightning Logia fruit, and it didn't work on Luffy. Anything even remotely close to that is not going to work either. Very well then, I hear your answer. Stop this, Loki. If you hit the children, there's no turning back. Make sure you go easy on him, Luffy, or his wounds will get worse. And that's when Luffy goes gum, and then Loki says, I've lost this one. Arm balloon! And mind you, Luffy hits him with a relatively weak punch. But then Loki falls face first into the ground, because apparently he succumbed to his injuries, and he's knocked unconscious again. Just really summoning all of his strength just for that one little gamble. But, despite everything that goes on after this, Luffy says, Please, Hadodin, help him out a little. I don't want to let him die no matter who he is. And then it shows Gerd, who's tending to Loki. And they got his legs propped up and everything. They got him properly they actually have him laying on some logs that they cut. We have Ragnir in the background. Loki is still, oh, mind you, Loki is still chained around his legs. They got his his arms chained up. I didn't notice this. His arms are still chained up, and his legs are still chained up. Let me see here. Yeah, they re-put some chains back on his arms and legs. I didn't notice they put chains on his arms and legs again. They put it back on him. I did not notice that. But when they take the helmet off, it reveals that Loki has actual horns, just like King Harold did, which means that he has ancient giant blood within him. So those horns that we thought were a part of his helmet are actually a part of his skull. They're a holdover of his ancient giant blood, just like his father Harold. And then we get a flashback of when Loki was younger and Harudin were younger. And Loki, even though he's younger than Harudin, still towers over Harudin when they were children, because King Harold is talking to them going, "You are my sons, and I love you both. I want you two to work together to support Elbaf after I'm gone." And as time went on, Loki started to bully Harudin, saying, "I can't believe this tiny weakling is supposed to be my big brother. You're just a bastard. You're not our father's legitimate son. Hear that, Harudin? Your mother had filthy blood in her veins." And that is when Harudin, in the present day, is taking his axe and he's preparing to basically kill Loki, of which he gets stopped by Stanzin and Rode. And they're trying to tell him not to lose control. And he goes, "I'll never forgive him for what he did. He insulted my mother and killed my father." Go on, do it, you sad little berserker. Or perhaps instead of indulging in your petty personal drama, take a look at the woods around us. They all say I went and killed Dad with pure murder in my heart, but you don't believe that, do you? So now, this is basically just telling us, hold on, let me post this, because I forgot to let everyone know that I was even doing this stream today. Doing this stream right now, actually. I forgot to let the entire community know. But what we have here is we've heard all of these stories of how Loki is this big evil individual to all of the giants. Yeah, we heard all these different stories about how Loki's an evil individual who has ransacked all these different places, killed hundreds of soldiers and warriors, and just one of the most evil of individuals. But here, Loki is insinuating that those stories have been grossly fabricated. Especially the one where everyone says he's the reason why King Harold died. With just because he wanted to kill him and take the power for himself. That's as far as what people have told us. But Loki is making Harudin question whether or not this story is actually true. Because the thing is, we don't know what truly transpired between King Harold and Loki. We don't know what events went on to make Loki kill King Harold. We were just told that he killed him and took the legendary devil fruit power for himself. So this chapter ends with him making Harudin question everything he's ever known about Loki because of the stories that have been told. And that's the end of chapter 1143. Also, hate the Celestial Dragons in this chapter simply because they really don't care about the lives of the children. So, moving on from 1143 to 1144, this was the most recent chapter that we got our hands on, entitled chapter 1144, A Time for Warriors. So, this is where I wanted to get at from the very beginning. You know how I was talking about how the world of One Piece has been around for a while. And as far as timelines go, for basically 20 years. Basically, I want to say over 20, a little closer to, I want to say basically 20 years. We essentially saw that the timeline of One Piece went as far as about as 800 years ago. You know, the Void Century included, ancient civilization. This chapter basically tells us, and mind you, We also have the mural in the upper reaches of Elbaf, in the more less crowded places of Elbaf, in more ancient spaces of Elbaf that have existed for apparently a long time. And there's a structure here. So, because we get Frankie and we get Ripley, and they come across this ancient structure, which apparently Vegapunk Lilith has already come across, along with Bonnie. So when Bonnie is explaining that, yeah, we got lost while we were here, but we were kind of exploring as well, she explains that by her estimates, the building has been this giant futuristic building-like location that looks like it is suffering from overgrowth and just wear and tear of just time itself. We learned that this place has maybe been here for 3 millennia. For those who don't know what millennia is, it is essentially 1,000 years. A millennium is 1,000 years. A century is 100 years. A decade is 10 years. A year is a year. This structure has been here for 3,000 years, which means that some histories of the history of the world, as far as like 3,000 years ago, or however far it goes, there is so much information to be gleaned from inside this building. So now we go from the timeline of One Piece going as far back as 800 years to going as far back as 3,000 years. And mind you, bringing up the mural again, it doesn't exactly tell us the time frame of when the first world existed and the second world existed before we get to the third world currently, where the water levels have risen from the second world's, I guess, cataclysmic event. Now we have this big giant structure that is estimated to be 3,000 years old, and now that makes it that might make it the absolute oldest place in all of One Piece. Older than Marie Joie, older than the Red Line, older than everything. 3,000 years, which makes me question, how is this place still standing after 3,000 years and no one has been there? Because even Ripley points out that this is a place that we've never even had on our maps. Elbaf has no knowledge of it on their maps, which means that this place predates the entire giant nation of Elbaf. And I want to say pretty much any other nation that exists within the world as well. Any of the major ones, that is. So this one particular panel of a building that has been here for 3,000 years! Really? What happened? What happened 3,000 years ago? How far back do we go? Because here's my thing. If this is from the same civilization that the 20 kingdoms wanted to go up against and completely eradicate, then that means that the technology if I'm trying to get my words together because I'm kind of excited about what this could potentially mean. If the technology that is inside this ancient place is still able to be used today, then that means that the technology that Vegapunk came up with is not only older than we expect, but also still so far more advanced than everything that exists in the world now. Because I said this during my reaction yesterday. The things that Vegapunk has made when his Stella body was alive, the things that Vegapunk has made over the years by reverse engineering all the stuff from the Void Century, this is stuff that people consider from Vegapunk to be 500 years in the future. Yet Vegapunk says that this is something I just reverse engineered from the technology of the ancient kingdoms from 800 years ago. Now it makes me wonder, even this stuff, all this stuff that Vegapunk has been messing with, it's probably way older than even he thinks. Because if this technology comes not only from 800 years ago, but actually was been refined from what we got 3,000 years ago, then that means that this technology is literally the epitome of ahead of its time. I want to see inside this place. I know we got a whole Loki situation going on. He's being tended to by Gerd, and he's questioning Hadodin on the validity of the stories that have been made about him. We have the Holy Knights who are just chilling, allowing children to walk into a fire, hopefully walk into the fire while they're trying to kidnap them. We got Luffy and company still with Loki. We got Nami and the others who are trying to find out what's going on with all the children. And now we have Franky and Ripley here at this new location with a building that is so incredibly ancient, it predates all kingdoms. It predates all kingdoms. Wait. 3,000 years. Just a portion of those 3,000 years was basically dedicated to the ancient civilization and the Void Century. So now my question is, how long did that civilization exist? Because I'm not saying that 800 years ago is when the civilization itself was formed. I'm just saying that it's been existing since then. So I'm wondering if this is a place from that same ancient civilization for it to still be up. And if so, what kind of technology were they making for them to have a structure that lasts this long? I have so many questions, but this is also the beginning of the page as well. Lilith says she's going to put down roots here, but before they can really get comfortable, we have one of the Sleeptids, one of the MMAs, one I'm afraid of lightning coming in as it bears down on Franky and Ripley. And then we cut to the Western Village, while all the giants are preparing to fight the giant Draugr that knocked back the firefighter spars that were flying through the air. And when they're preparing to, the Straw Hats want to join, but the giants are all like, you're our guest, you don't need to worry about joining up with us. Then we get Kowloon, son of Gabin, who wants to join into the fight. But one of the giants aptly and correctly tells Kowloon, you may be the son of Gabin, but you're not Gabin. This is like the same deal of, you may be the son of Naruto, but you're not Naruto. It's literally one of those situations. So they just kind of toss him out of the way and say, go find safety with the rest of the children and stay put. Now, while all the Straw Hats are trying to figure out what's going on, and not only that, the giants who were, beaten up by Gunko, they're conscious now, and they tell Chief Jarl everything that's going on. And Jinbei lets them know that this might be the work of a devil fruit going on right now. So if these phenomena are unfamiliar to you, then there's a good chance that those folks are behind it. So they go off to keep everyone informed about the intruders. The Straw Hats want to get involved as well, especially Nami, because we've already seen what happens when you mistreat children in front of her. I mean, she was willing to go up against Ulti, a person of superior strength and power in comparison to Nami, and Nami didn't care because if you mistreat children, you gonna catch these hands. So now we have Nami getting involved saying, I don't know who these people are, but if they're abducting children in broad daylight, they're despicable, we have to find them. And that's when everyone is saying like, yeah, what are they gonna demand from Elbaf once they get the kids, once they've got the kids held hostage? I never heard of an abduction like this. It will not come to pass. And like I said, the Straw Hats want to join in with this search, but he basically... hold on. Wow, it did not update chat. It did not update chat when CDs came in. Chat disabled? The heck? Oh. Wow. It didn't, chat is not updated because I haven't had the correct chat in here. I still had the chat when I was reading Kaiju number 8 from earlier on. Sorry about that. Now everyone can have their what they were saying off to the side. My bad. Man, I am so sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody. That's on me. But the Straw Hats want to join in. But Jarl says, no, nonsense, you're our guest. Stay in hiding where it's safe. Now, where are Dory and Brocky? They're apparently throwing up. So while the Straw Hats have been left behind by the giants, they still want to help out. And they see Kowloon, who's dragging some weapons. And since the Straw Hats don't stop him, they use Kowloon. They have Kowloon basically take them to where they need to go. With Kowloon saying like, all right, then man the oars, Kowloon pirates. And he's saying like, you can come with if I'm the captain. And, Nami just finds it adorable. But then we cut from Kowloon and the other Straw Hats making their way to try and find what's causing this to all the children. A confrontation with the God Knights are all but inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. The God Knights are going to run afoul of the Straw Hats. Chaos! And here's my thing, and I need everyone to hear this. We are about to see a confrontation with the God Knights, the Holy Knights, versus the Straw Hats before we see a confrontation between the Holy Knights and the Revolutionaries. Think about that for a minute! The Revolutionaries were concerned that if things get worse in the world, the Holy Knights are going to get involved, and that's when we need to get serious as revolutionaries. But here we are, and Dragon's very own son is probably going to be interacting with the Holy Knights before he does. So, we cut back to the Holy Knights with Gunko listening to some music while they listen to the message going out throughout all of Elbaf. And it's Gunko's post-meal ritual, and it's not a ritual, I just like doing it, and she's listening to music. But it's nice you have a hobby you can carry, TDs, tone dials. So she's listening to a tone dial. She's got a pair of headphones that she can just listen to music to. TDs, I prefer listening to a live musical performance, and whoever flubs the note first, bang. So, my hate for Sommers increases. Not only does he have a devil fruit that has the potential to cause not only emotional trauma, but also physical trauma to those who are caught up in his own devil fruit, but he also enjoys going to live musicals where he gets to shoot whoever messes up a note. That's fun for him. Now, mind you, this is not the first time we've seen the depravity. This is not the first time we've seen depravity of the Celestial Dragons, because we've seen them basically shoot a person in front of them because their ship was in their path, or try and kill another individual because that person chose to walk in front of them, or I'm going to kill the chef because you served me a different type of food, even though we don't have the food that I want. I am going to kill you simply because you don't give me what I asked for. Petty stuff, dumb stuff, incredibly insane stuff. But I hate Sommers more because he enjoys it. It's not a matter of like, oh, I'm a god and you won't give me what I want. Well, I'm going to kill you because I'm a god and I can do whatever I want. No, it's more like, I enjoy this. I enjoy the suffering of others. Like, he gets off on this. TDs, I prefer listening to a live musical performance, and whoever flubs a note first, bang. But it's nice to have a hobby you can carry around with you. What's that song you like so much? And Gunko basically reveals that she's a Brook fan. She's a Soul King fan, apparently. And she's listening to Brook's New World song. What, you got a problem with the one we already live in? And then Killingham reprimands Sommers, saying, don't make fun of what other people like, Sommers. Oh yeah, sorry about that. But hey, look, the adults are trying their hardest to save the kids. And it shows Saul, who has 2 shields ready, preparing to stop the children, like physically, but using shields so he can protect his hand as well. When he does, though, the thorns stop, but it also winds up causing other children who are walking behind the children in front of them to kind of just walk into the thorns. So even by Saul trying to do this, he still winds up putting the children in danger, because trying to stop them will cause other children, trying to stop the one in front will cause all the rest of them to walk into more children, and they will get injured more that way. So while he's apologizing, even Robin is just distraught over this. This is awful. It's sadistic. Now, mind you, Robin is an individual who's been around a lot of awful and sadistic people, from Crocodile to Rob Lucci and even Spandam. So she's saying, Saul, I think our only option is to search for whoever's powers these are. Do we even know if they're nearby? But the kids are going to throw themselves into the fire while we search. I got to try everything. I got to try everything I can. And he manages to get a rope around one of the kids. But when he's pulling on the kid to keep from moving, and the kid is tugging because the kid is still unconscious, one of the Sleeptids, the What I'm Afraid of Fenrir pops up, because it looks like they're trying to stop anyone from interfering with the kids. So not only are the Sleeptids keeping the giants from trying to catch up and trying to stop them, but they're also trying to stop Saul and everyone else from trying to get the kids and lead them to safety. So now we get back to the Walrus School, where they come to the conclusion, Mr. Principal, it's not just the Western Village. Other villages are reporting back about similar monsters. This is happening all over Elbaf. It seems clear that these are devil fruit powers at work. We must identify the culprits. They literally have the Sleeptids going out all over Elbaf just to make sure that the giants are too preoccupied to try and get the kids back. So that way, while in the midst of this chaos, they can take the kids and lead them away from Elbaf and use the kids as a bargaining chip in order to take over the nation. But it shows that the Draugr has been brought down outside of the Western Village, though a lot of people got injured. And just when they're thinking about, oh, it's fine, the Needhogger comes in and breathes lightning down on all, either lightning or fire. I want to say it's fire. Breathes fire down on all the giants and blasts a few of them away. And then we also get a giant ghost that comes up right next to the Needhogger as it's trying to keep everyone in the Western Village occupied so that they can't help at all. But who is it who swings by with axe at the ready and sword at the ready? It is, and they respond with, it's our turn, Dory. Indeed, Broggy. Hakoku's sovereignty! And as soon as they use Hakoku's sovereignty, they take out both the ghost and the Needhogger in one fell swoop, and even another Sleeptid gets caught up in it, as they see the captains have sobered up, and now they're preparing to fight. Because they also went to the bathroom and threw up all that good booze that they drunk. And who else is with them? Still drinking, mind you, a little bit, but Scupper Gabbin himself. So now Dory and Broggy are on the case, dealing with all these giant monsters, and Scupper Gabbin is going to join in as well. See, and that's the end of all the chapters that we got in the month of March. Let me say this. I was not counting on Scupper joining into the fight for Elbaf this soon. I knew he would have a part to play later, but I didn't think he was just going to be joining in almost immediately, as soon as the chaos started. And the dreams started happening and the monsters started coming up. Didn't think that Dory and Broggy would be fighting and Scupper Gabbin would be there too. So now Scupper Gabbin is, see, here's the thing. Every single time we see a member of the Roger Pirates, save for Crocus, we get ridiculous showcases of power. I mean, obviously Shanks is a good example of ridiculous showcases of power, because we saw what he did to Kid. He one-shot him. It was just like got some eye crust in your eye and you flick it off. That's what Kid was to Shanks. But now we have, and Rayleigh is one of the best examples of a Roger Pirates who has not really slowed down. Though age has caught up with him, and he has said that even if he were to fight Blackbeard right now, he would probably lose because he's not strong enough to take down Blackbeard on his own. So age did in fact catch up with Rayleigh, but he's still one of the most overpowered characters in the entire series, simply because literally he was neck and neck with Roger and Scupper Gabbin. And the thing with Scupper Gabbin is if Rayleigh was seen as the right hand of the king, then Scupper was seen as the left hand. So now we got Scopper, who's and the thing is, Scopper was ready to fight the Straw Hats. Even Luffy was ready to go Gear 5. That's how serious a fight it was. Scopper Gabin is such a significant threat that Luffy had to go Gear 5 almost immediately. Well, almost immediately when he was sparring with him. So now you got the third strongest Roger Pirates that we know of that is going to be fighting alongside the giant pirates in order to take down all these monsters, which will make it easier to rescue the kids. So overall, during this entire month, we learned that the weapon of Loki is called Ragnir. It's capable of calling down lightning on anywhere that Loki hits. We also find out that the horns on his head are indeed part of his body, is because he has ancient giant blood within him. And we also find out that maybe the stories of Loki's rampages and the reasons why he killed King Harold may not be as true as the rest of the giants have tried to make it out to be. We also find out the devil fruit powers of Shepherd Saint Somers and Remo Shifu Killingham, being the thorn fruit and the dragon fruit type mythical type Motto Chilin. And that's the reason why they're leading away all of the kids. We got the Straw Hats with Nami and every Straw Hat that's with her looking to try and find out what's going on with the kids. We find out there's a structure that exists within Elbaf that predates pretty much every known time-based event and historical piece. Since before the Void Century and before 800 years ago, we learned that there's a structure that is literally 3,000 years old. So who knows how long that's been there. Back to the house. Nice. I'm just running through all of the stuff that we've learned this month in March before we move into April tomorrow. We learn that these dreams, these creatures are pretty much standing in the way of trying to keep the children from being saved. Saint Somers is enjoying himself watching the misery ensuing from watching people trying to rescue the children only to be harmed in the process. He's enjoying this. We learned that Gunko is a Soul King fan. She likes Brook's music and apparently listens to his music every time she finishes a meal. So she's a Brook fan. I wonder how she'll react when she learns that Brook is also here on the island as well. So that should be an interesting reaction if we ever get to that point. Loki is being tended to by Gerd and healed after his wounds given to him by Shamrock. Saul and everyone else are trying their best to save the kids. Of course, the Sleep Tids are standing in their way. And now we have Dorian Broggy and Scopper Gabin coming in to start taking down these monsters, which I don't think is going to take long at all. I feel Gunko's going to turn good. I highly doubt she's going to turn good. I highly doubt it. Not just because she's there, not just because she sees Brook, though. Because people's allegiances don't change that easily. Especially, and the thing you have to realize is that Gunko is a celestial dragon. She's a celestial dragon. She is brought up to look at everyone beneath her. That's what she's been brought up. That is her entire lineage. Her entire lineage is that these people who are not celestial dragons are beneath me. They're basically beneath me. So I don't think her seeing Brook is going to be what causes her to join the good side or join the side of the Straw Hats. She'll probably still be a fan of Brook, but that doesn't And the thing is, she's not, I got a feeling, I know you got a feeling, but you also got to think about this. Remember who she serves under. Gunko is mad, quiet. Look, you're not hearing me. Remember who she serves under. I need you to go back in time to when it's not cause of Brook. I don't think you understand. You're not getting me. Let me explain. Who she serves under is Figurland Garling. Who did we see Figurland Garling execute the very same panel he was introduced? Saint Miasgard, who is also a celestial dragon. And you want to know why he was executed? Because he helped the people considered lower than a celestial dragon. He did not hesitate to crucify and murder this man. Well, murder him and then crucify him and then have him up on display in the middle of Marijois for all to see. This is the person that Gunko serves under. Do you honestly think that Figurland Garling would allow one of his own subordinates to turn tail and try and fight against them? No! That's not gonna happen. So I don't see Gunko becoming a good person at all. Just because she quiet don't mean that she ain't evil like the rest of them because of that upbringing. Her entire behavior ever since she's been introduced has been nothing but sadistic towards those she considers lesser than her. This is how celestial dragons are. Miasgard and Don Quixote Homing and his wife were the anomalies. But it's also members of the Don Quixote family, save for Doflamingo, that seem to be the anomaly amongst all of the celestial dragons. Don Quixote Miasgard, Don Quixote Homing, Don Quixote Rocinante, his wife, and Homing's wife as well. Only Doflamingo out of the Don Quixote family was the only one that still acted like a celestial dragon, even after everything that transpired when he got kicked out with his family. He couldn't come back, even after bringing his father's head to them. These are celestial dragons through and through. There are none that are good like Miasgard. And just to make sure that Oda brings the message home, he literally has the one good celestial dragon in all of Marijois murdered right after the reverie. There are no more good celestial dragons there. They all have the mentality of we are all gods, or we are gods. Gunko probably afraid because maybe Figurland has something special that relates to her for her to serve under him once 100%. See, where are you getting this info? Now, I would like to know, what evidence makes you think that Gunko is just a good person and that she'll turn? It ain't got nothing. It doesn't have anything to do. I don't think it has anything to do with Figurland has something on Gunko. Because one, you are not gonna. I honestly don't think that you would have to be press ganged into joining Figurland to make him go. To join up with his group. These are people who have willingly joined with Figurland, serve in the Holy Knights as a disciplinary force of the Celestial Dragons. Me personally, my gut, the look of her, it's not enough. It's not enough to go on. It's not enough to go on. I can't just go off of like gut feeling just based off of looks alone. I can't. I need to know more. I need to know more character. Like, I want to know why she's scared of Nika. Oh, hold on. Okay, we're good now. Sorry, something popped up. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we're good now. Sorry, I had to double check something. I got pinged for something. Seen characters like her many times. But you haven't seen characters like her written by Oda, though. So I'm not gonna go off and say, like, it's impossible for that to be a thing. I'm gonna hold on to it until I'm wrong. You do that. But me, I've seen enough Celestial Dragons to know that good-natured Celestial Dragons never last, because every single good-natured Celestial Dragon has died at the hands of another Celestial Dragon. Think about that. Every single good-natured Celestial Dragon that has died at the hands of another Celestial Dragon. Don Quixote Homing was killed by his son, who was a Celestial Dragon. But still. Rocinante was killed by his brother, who has Celestial Dragon blood as well. Then you have Don Quixote Miasgard, who was killed by the Celestial Dragon and Supreme Commander of the Holy Knights, Figurlan Garling. Every single good-natured Celestial Dragon has been killed by another. Maybe she's gonna turn good at the end and then die. You've been looking at way too manga where that happens. You've been looking at way too much manga when that happens. We'll see, though, but I don't know if that's gonna be the case. Because her behavior, this is not someone who's just gonna up and die soon. There still needs to be a confrontation between the Holy Knights and the Revolutionaries, because I feel like all of the Holy Knights need to be present in order for the downfall of the Celestial Dragons to be more assured. Because the Straw Hats, and I said this before, the Straw Hats are encountering the Holy Knights before the Revolutionaries do. And I feel like when Marie-Joie starts to come crumbling down in the final fight for Marie-Joie, like the big battle between the Marie-Joie and the Revolutionaries goes down, I feel like all of the Holy Knights are going to be present, where they take on all the strongest fighters, where the Holy Knight members take on the strongest members. Take on the strongest members of the Revolutionaries. I'm going to save this video just in case. Oh, don't worry. You'll be able to remember which one it was. It was on the last day of March at 4:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in 2025. So don't worry. I'll mark it down myself so we can come back to this conversation when it doesn't happen. But I honestly feel like I don't think Gunko is going to die anytime soon, because her interaction is going to be necessary when they go up against the Revolutionaries. But everything we learned in these chapters in March, the chaos is already underway and the Straw Hats are getting involved. And as soon as the Straw Hats get involved with any sort of situation where oppression and kidnapping and evil is being shown in a space where, and here's the thing, all plans made against the Straw Hats or against the nation that gives Luffy food fail. If you harm an individual that gives Luffy food, you get beaten up by him. If you try and oppress an entire nation that gives Luffy food, you get beaten by the Straw Hats. It happens every single time. And this is going to be no different. I honestly feel like they may encounter and this is just my assumption. I'm just going to give a couple of theories about what may happen throughout this arc, and then I'll call it a session for today. I honestly feel that the Holy Knights will encounter the Straw Hats, but they won't actively fight them. And since Shamrock is gone, that interaction with Luffy and questioning whether it's Shanks or not, that's probably out of the window right now, unless Shamrock comes back for some odd reason. But I believe Shamrock is going to stay because he's there to quell the unrest within the Celestial Dragons, because they're all short on food. Glad they're starving. Happy they're starving. Let them die. But he's probably not going to come back to Elbaf because he's leaving that all for Killingham and St. Somers and Gunko to handle. So I feel like they will maybe interact with the Holy Knights, but won't know anything about them. And maybe the Holy Knights, after seeing that their plans have gone awry, will just, I won't say retreat, but maybe they won't fight them at all. But those are just my theories. Now, one thing that needs to be done, though, is I would very much like to find out what story is going on between Loki and Harudin, and whether or not the stories that the Giants have told us of him are in fact true or not, or if they've just been fabricated in order to make whatever happened between him and King Harold less severe. Have a question? By all means, go ahead. Go ahead. Jinbei was a former warlord. Yes, he was. And the reason why he became a warlord was to allow Fishman Island, a chance to be affiliated with the world government so that they wouldn't be persecuted by the world government, and give Fishman actual freedom. A lot more freedom. And this is also in in lieu of Queen Otohime. Doesn't he have some information about these higher-ups? No. The warlords don't know anything about the Celestial Dragon Holy Knights or anything of that nature. Anything that deals with the Celestial Dragons, stay with the Celestial Dragons. Their Holy Knights, they don't know much of. They don't even interact with the Gorosei, and especially they have no knowledge of anything beyond the Five Elders. They have no knowledge of that whatsoever. The warlords are just pirates with government support. But that doesn't mean they have any information on anyone who's higher up than them. So while they may be warlords under the affiliation of the world government, they are not given any more information than what is necessary for them to continue to be pirates that are under the world government. So no, they don't have any information on these higher-ups. I highly doubt a single warlord that exists knows of the Holy Knights. Dragon knows of it. He knows. But I highly doubt any other warlords know the higher-ups. Because think about this. If you were given the position of warlord, you are literally just a pirate that's employed. I was curious about that since he's a Straw Hat. If you were a warlord, or if you were given a person the title of warlord and they were a pirate, would you want them to have knowledge about what's going on in the higher-ups that don't involve them whatsoever? I'm just saying. Would you want to have a pirate knowledgeable about the inner workings of the Celestial Dragons, who already consider themselves gods, so that would be information that is not worthy of mere humans, mere insects? Would you be that willing to give that information to any warlord? Because warlords are just employed pirates. That's it, but they're still pirates. So they're beneath the world government. They're beneath the Celestial Dragons. So no one would have any knowledge whatsoever. But that is all that's happened in March. We start April tomorrow, and this upcoming Sunday is going to be yet another chapter for One Piece because we are not going on break. So, either one of two things can happen. Either we continue with Scopper Gabbin, Dorian Broggy taking out the rest of the giant monsters. Either we cut to Nami and the rest of the Straw Hat crew traveling with Kowloon to try and figure out whose Devil Fruit powers are doing what. Either we get back to Frankie and Ripley as they're tending and dealing with the giant lightning monster that's there. And hopefully it doesn't do too much damage to the 3,000-year-old building that Lilith and Bonnie are going to be chilling in. Either we cut back to Luffy, or we cut back to Luffy and company as they're dealing with Loki, and when you find out the information between Loki and King Harold and what truly went down. Either one of those things. All I know is that the pacing for Elbaf is actually quite good, and my thoughts and theories about whether we could start on any one of these, as long as Oda covers it. Oh, we got rain. Another question? By all means, please ask it, and I'll do my best to it. And I'll do my best to answer. Probably ahead of yourself about Joy Boy? Ah, yes, you probably are, because I know for a fact that you still haven't watched Whole Cake Island! Is he from Elbaf, or they never mention it? No. Joy Boy it's unknown where Joy Boy comes from. But from what Vegapunk surmised, he is the first person to ever be called a pirate. But that's it. We have no idea where Joy Boy came from. We just know he was the individual that... We just know that Joy Boy is the individual that went up against the 20 kingdoms that would later make up the world government, and thus the Celestial Dragons in the future, but we have no idea where Joy Boy came from. We know next to nothing about Joy Boy except from the words of other people, and that's it. And we know, but he is a giant, right? No. That's never been established. That has never been established. That's never been established that Joy Boy is an actual giant. Because if you're thinking about that old hat, that old giant hat that exists deep within the recesses of Marie-Joie, that does not indicate that it belonged to a giant individual. Yeah, if you're thinking that big old giant hat in there belongs to Joy Boy, that doesn't mean that it belonged to Joy Boy and that he himself is indeed a giant. And they showed a shadowy image when he was talking to Emmett. You do know that perspectives are, dude, you're drawing. You're drawing your own manga. You do know about perspectives, right? So you know about picture perspectives. A person can look like you know about perspectives. He's not all the way up close to Emmett when he's speaking to the robot. He's not directly next to him. He's like far off talking to Emmett. He's speaking to Emmett from an elevated position so he can be at eye level, but he's not close to him. It's like this. It's like this. Hold on. Let me show you. It's like this. I need to clip this nail. Good Lord. It's like this. Yeah, let me use my thumbs. It's like this. Actually, let me do it correctly. So it's like this. This thumb right here, relatively same height as the other one, but that doesn't mean that thumb in front is the same size from that same distance. It looks big. It looks big from this perspective. It's perspective. I gotcha. Yeah. Joy Boy ain't no giant. It may look that way, but he's standing on a platform looking at Emmett. He's standing on a platform he's standing on an elevated position looking at Emmett. Matter of fact, let me come down here. Yeah. He's in front of Emmett, who's knelt down and looking at Joy Boy. I see what you mean. I don't know. I was looking at I don't know. I was looking at a different. It's good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, those are the things I would like to find out in April. And maybe we can find out even more about that building as well. I want to know what's in it. If we look in there and it's futuristic, then that means that the world was already futuristic 3,000 years ago. But I was looking at that and the hat together. I assume he was a giant size. See, no, you got to differentiate that. It's very easy to look into that, but then you realize that when you look at the other images of Joy Boy and how he was leaping into battle, he was pretty much a small size. He was leaping into the fray against the 20 Kingdoms, and he looked to be around the same size as Luffy was, or relatively close to that size, because there is a panel. And which chapter was this in? Joy Boy versus the 20 Kingdoms. Let's see. Yeah. Chapter 11:15. This is when Vegapunk was explaining. And it shows Joy Boy leaping above them. And I dare say that this is just a regular-sized Joy Boy. Regular-sized Joy Boy. In comparison to, like, actually being a giant. Otherwise, Oda probably wouldn't have shown him high in the air, but maybe, like, on the ground against everyone. But that's my assumption. That's just my assumption. Overall, but yeah, I want Oda to show more about what's inside that building. Because like I said, if we look inside of that building and it's already futuristic, then that means that the world was already advanced 3,000 years ago. Only thing that met Joy Boy was Zunisha, that elephant. Yeah, Zunisha has been around since Joy Boy's time, because Zunisha is 1,000 years old, which means that Zunisha is the second oldest thing in One Piece. And that thing's still alive. The oldest thing in One Piece is that structure that's been there for 3,000 years. And Zunisha has been walking throughout the world for 1,000 years. So that essentially makes Zunisha the oldest living thing in all of One Piece. Possibly even more than Imu-sama, but I could be wrong because we don't know anything about Imu. And I fear the day we learn about Imu. I fear the day we learn more about Imu is when we enter into the Infernal. The day we learn about Imu is probably going to spell like end times for One Piece. Because when you start to learn about the villain's final history, where they came from, and they're the big bad of the story, that's when we're entering into endgame levels of nonsense. I wonder if there's a devil fruit that can read memories. It is. It belongs to Pudding. She can essentially read your memories and actually take memories from you. Yeah, will shake the One Piece world? It would. It would. Finding out what that hat is, deep within the vault of Marie Joie, will shake the world of One Piece. Finding out what the will of D is and what the D actually means will shake the world of One Piece. And for the fans as well. Finding out who Imu is and their effect on the world as a whole, that's going to shake up the world. Finding out whether or not Dragon has a devil fruit power, which I doubt that he does, will shake up the world as well. Finding out about literally why Blackbeard can wield 2 devil fruits at once will shake up the world of One Piece. There's still so much of One Piece that we don't know. And Oda just gave us a tease that the world of One Piece goes back even farther than we could have possibly imagined. Mind you, like I said, I brought this up before. The mural showing the first world where it was destroyed by fire, and then the second one destroyed by fire. And then the second one was, I was just thinking about what I could compare this to. But the first world was destroyed by fire. Second world was destroyed by water. And I'm just thinking, what happened during these 2 great cataclysms where the world essentially ended twice? Because now we have a structure that goes back even farther than the oldest living thing in One Piece. And it just brings more questions to my mind. A building that's been existing in the world of One Piece for 3,000 years? Predating the Giants? Possibly during the era of the ancient Giants? So many questions. But overall, this has been a great month for One Piece. 4 chapters within a singular month? Let's see if April can do the same thing. I don't know. Oda, I wouldn't mind if Oda actually takes a break next month, because he's been firing on all cylinders with all 4 of these chapters this month. I wouldn't mind if he actually went on break. I wouldn't mind. But we'll see where things go. Yeah, I gotta get back. I'm gonna try and watch at least 2 or 3 episodes a day. Okay. We'll see. Sure you will. Sure you will. I'll come back to yet another One Piece Reflections, and you're still gonna be in Whole Cake Island. I see you. You're trying to fool me. You're trying to make me feel like, oh, he's gonna watch it. Watching. Watching you. I'm gonna check up on you. I know where you live. You live on the Discord. I'm gonna talk. We gonna talk. But overall, these were some good chapters of One Piece in March. Moving into April, I can't wait to see what One Piece has to offer. Not only that, but the One Piece anime is coming back as well. So now we get to continue where the anime left off. And it's crazy to think that the English dub has finally caught up in line with the Japanese sub as well. So now it'll be like a simulcast where we'll get the English dub and the Japanese dub at roughly the same time. But overall, it's a good day to be a One Piece fan. It's a good month to be a One Piece fan. Hopefully, in April, we also find out more news about this new update that is going to be coming to One Piece Power Warriors 4 for the PS5 version of the game. Hopefully, we'll find out more about it. More about the characters that people voted for. Hopefully, it's Eneru, King, and Ryokugyu. That's who I voted for. So we'll have to see. But we'll just have to wait all the same. April's going to be a bit of a dry month when it comes to games, so that's the reason why I'm going to be playing the first Berserker Kazan. And I'm going to start that, I want to say, tomorrow, and we're going to be playing it. And then throughout the month, throughout this week, we have the Nintendo Direct. I see your birthday cards. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I got to have them on display. Hold on. I got to show off. Birthday cards. Birthday cards. I got to show them off. Silly. I'm being silly. I'm sorry. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of my... Well, actually, hold on. I forgot one thing. Yeah, I forgot one thing. Sorry, I had to put it back. You gotta love. I know. But this was a fun reflections to talk through. I love talking about One Piece with you guys, and I wanted to start doing some where we're just talking about different manga and not just focused, because I did it for My Hero Academia. I don't think I've done it for Jujutsu Kaisen. Actually, you know what? I would love to have a discussion about manga series I've covered but haven't talked about. I would love to have conversations about manga I've covered but that have ended. Sorry, more water. Sorry about that. I would love to have discussions where I talk about manga that I've covered all the way to its end, from Demon Slayer to Jujutsu Kaisen to My Hero Academia, and any others that I've finished as well. Can you do Ordeal read-through? Ordeal? What is Ordeal? Is that another manhwa? I don't know. I'm currently not in the market to try and start new manhwa yet because I'm just focusing on Solo Leveling Ragnarok in the beginning after the end. So I'll have to see, but no promises though. No promises. I'll have to see. I'll have to see if it's something that I could be interested in, because I don't want to just start a series. I don't like it, but I just stick with it because I don't want to leave it to die. So I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, April's going to be busy. We got the Nintendo Direct. We got the Monster Hunter Wilds update that is dropping this week as well. And we also have... There was something else. Oh, yeah, voiceover stream I'm going to be doing next week as well. And then whatever thing I'm going to be doing throughout April. Got plenty of ways to bring in new people. Maybe Godjiel has have to give you a recommendation. That's only if he's interested as well. Don't you try to convince him so he can convince me. He's got to do it of his own free will. But plenty of things for me to do in April, and I'm looking forward to even more people I get to entertain because I love doing this. I do. It's fun for me. I love putting smiles on people's faces, and every opportunity I get to chill and relax and enjoy life with you guys is a day well spent. But that's all I got for you guys. Looking forward to an amazing April, and then an amazing May, and then all the way throughout the year, because I'm playing me a ton of games this year. I'm gonna do that. Don't you do it, because it's not gonna work. Because if I find out that you did it, and it's all like, well, I was gonna read Ordeal, but then I found someone trying to manipulate the polls and the ballots, and now I can't do it because the polls have been manipulated. Appreciate you too. Yeah, thank you, CDs, thank you for all the support. You've been and I have to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out here to CDs though. He's been here for a hot minute. He's been here for a while. He's one of my most trusted moderators who has been here for a while as well. I value his opinion, and he's a phenomenal artist. I mean, he's always showing his art on the Discord as well, but he's an amazing dude. And I am honored to have him here. CDs, thank you for being here. Thank you for making this chat lively. Thank you for just being here in general, because you, Kitty, everyone else who shows up just makes this place better just by being here. Thank you. I'm done. I'm going to call it a session. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe, because you're coming back anyway, and because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples!